I have found your Christmas Day movie. I was a little worried there that there wasn't going to be a Christmas movie for this year. Something that is fun and light to see on the holiday, just so you can get out of the house after opening all your presents and before you have your Christmas dinner. Avatar is a really long movie, so I don't know if people want to take 4 hours, with the trailers and the commercials out of the actual Christmas Day. But Puss in Boots, it runs an hour and 42 minutes, so when you add in the additional stuff, you've got like a little over 2 hours at the theater. So I think that's a perfect Christmas Day movie, really. I think Avatar 2 will do, if it's going to do well, it will do very well before and after Christmas. Universal has done this before. This is a release strategy they used with Sing 2 quite effectively. Also released just in time for Christmas, and it did very well in theaters, especially for a pandemic film, before becoming a digital and streaming juggernaut. It still pops into the top 10 on Netflix now and then, a year later. I mean, isn't that just absolutely incredible? It is a jukebox musical, which I think adds to the rewatchability factor, but oh my goodness, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is so good. I would think people would watch this multiple times. It's amazing. So good. All right, so enter Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which is not only my favorite animated movie of the year, but they make it very clear that Dreamworks Animation is warming up the entire Shrek franchise for a return, as has been the rumor for a while now. They make it very clear that that's literally the direction that they're headed in. And I'm excited, because based on the strength of this movie, let's go. Once upon a time, Shrek was the animation franchise to beat and put DreamWorks Animation on the map, cementing them as a true competitor to Disney. Again, I remember some of the later Shrek movies doing audience interviews, and the theaters would be packed on Friday afternoon when we used to film those. So just imagine on a Friday afternoon having sold out showings. I think that was like for Shrek 4 or something. I mean, that's how big Shrek was. For a while, DreamWorks Animation was hot stuff. Illumination Entertainment's kind of overtaken them, but I think DreamWorks is getting ready to come back fighting. And they highlight their very successful run in the new intro that they put in front of Puss in Boots, which I thought was nice. Although it does also highlight how long ago their heyday was. You're like, those movies all were very good, but they were a while ago. Shrek 2, speaking of a while ago, Shrek 2 came close to $1 billion back in 2004. That's incredible. That's amazing. And Shrek 2 is by far and away the best entry in the Shrek franchise. It is a perfect film. It's amazing. How does Puss in Boots: The Last Wish stack up to that? When I said how good it was, a number of you responded on Twitter, how does it compare to Shrek 2? And I would say it's not quite as good as Shrek 2, which was like just operating on another level, but it's darn close. It's definitely the second best film of the franchise and makes you feel that another Shrek 2 is possible. In fact, I need to see Puss in Boots: The Last Wish again, because I was so often taken out of the movie while watching it for the first time, because I kept thinking to myself, I can't believe how good this movie is. I mean, you are not prepared. The trailers have not been particularly good. It's an amazing movie. It's very funny, full of action, very heartfelt, and also very Shrek. Some of you might be like, whoa, Grace, I think you're overselling it. It can't possibly live up to these expectations. I can't oversell it. It's incredible. This film describes itself as a Shrek fairy tale. And my business brain also was like, I'm having a great time, because I think that's a fantastic way to expand the Shrek franchise without always having to have Shrek, Fiona, and Donkey front and center. It's more taking that tone and just telling these really cool other fairy tale stories. Now, I've seen some people who've seen the film already compare this to Logan, saying it's the Logan of the Shrek franchise. But I hard disagree on that. Not in quality, but Logan was a very dramatic, serious film, and that's not what this is like at all. It's a very upbeat film, in fact. I would instead say that Shrek is moving towards becoming the boys of the fairy tale genre. How perfect is that for like a way for them to think of themselves? I mean, that is just a bullseye. Skewering something with love and creating something on par with what you're skewering. Like The Boys has become a superhero fantastic story in its own right. And I think these fairy tales are that good. They're amazing. They're, you know, like just like you could argue The Boys is superheroes for adults, I think that Shrek in this direction is fairy tales for adults, but still something that children can watch too. But a lot of their jokes are going to go over their head. But that's fine, because that means they can rediscover the film later. And, you know, some of the best animated movies work it that way on multiple levels. Now, some of the fairy tale inside jokes here are incredible. Really, just what you want out of a Shrek movie. Keep your eyes peeled. Oh my goodness, the jokes were so funny. There are even a few quick cameos from Shrek favorites. They're quick, but they were so fun to see. I've also seen some people compare the animation style here to Into the Spider-Verse, and that I do agree with. And I think that adding all the brush strokes and imperfections of hand-drawn animation, or even better, actual artwork, adds tremendous depth and warmth to the precise coldness of computer animation. I really like this new trend. Also, like Into the Spider-Verse, the film is not only chock full of action, but very well directed action. I mean, some of the camera placement here is incredible, putting you right in the middle of the action. I was like, wow, what a great choice. And some of the shots, you're like, you could only do this with full CGI because it's such an incredible shot. And the action scenes are filmed as one would for a live-action adult film, which also makes the film quite thrilling. But of course, it's like two cats and a cute little puppy having these action sequences. But they're so good! The film is also quite well written, very complex, both in terms of storylines and emotional arcs. And you get a lot of bang for your buck and for your time, because you get a ton of characters and locations, and one of the coolest enchanted forests I've ever seen. I was like, wow, that's a great take on an enchanted forest. I can't believe that after all this time, they've been telling fairy tales for centuries. Nobody thought of this. It's great. Really, making sure fairy tales are the cornerstone for this franchise cannot be stressed enough as the clear path forward. And I see tremendous potential here. Like, wow, Disney should be sweating bullets. Because, you know, they're supposed to have the market cornered on fairy tales. And I'm like, I don't know, man, this is good stuff. And the voice work, oh, so good. First off, I must give a shout out to Florence Pugh. Pew, pew, pew. Who, along with Ray Winstone, Olivia Colman, and Samson Kayo, are what has been reimagined as a British gang straight out of a Guy Ritchie movie, with Florence Pugh as the leader. Oh, she's amazing. Move over, Jason Statham. I was so impressed with her performance here. I cannot wait to see her as the leader of the Thunderbolts in that upcoming MCU movie. I mean, we think Florence Pugh is good now. Clearly, we haven't seen anything yet. I mean, she's clearly got a lot more in the tank that she's not even using, at least in live action. I mean, this was great. I'd love to see more of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, maybe in some shorts, you know, that come out with the digital release of this movie, or like a Dreamworks Animation holiday special. They must return. I loved them. Perrito. Perrito is going to be everyone's new favorite character, and I think he is absolutely hilarious. And you know what else I think is funny? That it's the same voice as Nightwing on the Harley Quinn animated series. That Harvey Gillen, he has range. He's so great. Wow, this was a great character. Ripped from Twitter. I think Twitter will particularly love Perrito. He spoke in Twitterisms, which I thought was hilarious. It was also a delight to discover that John Mulaney voices the villain. Excellent as always. I always love John Mulaney. And as a big Jimmy Stewart fan, I loved Kevin McCann's Jiminy Cricket. I thought that was a really clever take on the character, and some of the lines that he had. With Jimmy Stewart, through a Jimmy Stewart filter, it was hilarious. Davine Joy Randolph also makes a strong yet brief impression as a cat lady with a beautiful but very smelly home. She was very good. The animation on her and her home, oh my goodness. Finally, while live action still has some work to do, this is a great time for Latino representation in animation, starting with the delightful Coco, then Encanto, and now we have Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which even has some of its own musical numbers, which were a delight. It's not a musical, though. It's really an action comedy. Who doesn't love that? Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek are, of course, both cinema legends at this point, but they have never seemed fresher than they do here, each giving 110% with their performances. Thanks for not phoning it in, guys. Especially Banderas. If only his live-action work was this good. But then, does Hollywood give him any live-action roles with this kind of range? Even Zorro wasn't this well written. I mean, What a performance. An incredible, incredible performance. And speaking of wow, Wagner Moura, aka Pablo Escobar, is a revelation as a bounty hunter with a secret who's going after Puss in Boots. Oh, this character was so cool top to bottom, from the voice work by Moura to the visuals. Wow. And it's a real shame that Moura doesn't get more live action work either, because he's clearly incredibly talented. For a moment, I thought it might be Bobby Cannavale, because he works so much in live action and animation, and Wagner Moura's voice has a similar quality to it at points, but Wagner Moura had these wonderful Latino flourishes to his performance, where I was like, no, it's a Latino actor. And sure enough, it was Wagner Moura, and I was like, what a performance. So good. It's an elegant performance that is very, very strong. So I could not recommend Puss in Boots: The Last Wish strongly enough. I'd heard it was good, but you have to see it to believe it. It's so good. I think that these days we're very skeptical of whether or not a movie is worth going to theaters. We're like, is it really though? I think I can wait. I'm telling you, Puss in Boots is worth a trip to the theater. It might be tough because it's going to be full of kids. I mean, I think I can see why you'd be scared. And you don't want your experience to be disrupted. But I think it's worth it. It's real, and you're going to want to see it multiple times anyway. It's really a phenomenal film. It's definitely your Christmas movie, or around then. It's just so great. You won't get a better choice for the holiday this season. Not only because of the quality of the film, but the design, that it's not too long. So that's my review of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, hitting theaters only December 21st. It'll eventually come to digital and then Peacock and then Netflix, but you should really see it. It's so good. Hopefully, it will be the hit it deserves to be. But these days, you just never know for sure. We'll see. All right, and also, I really am excited for Shrek to come back now. Very excited. All right, so it's a small little hint. Don't think like Shrek's going to show up or anything, but I'm excited. All right, Shrek doesn't need to show up, and I think that's important for the franchise going forward. All right, share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.